This is Corolla Digital.
Do you know that thousands seeking home security get ripped off every day? The home security industry wants you to believe that it's your only option, that or get robbed. They've got hordes of salesmen out there trying to scare you into signing one of their long-term contracts. Then you get stuck writing huge checks month after month with no way out. It's robbery by contract, and it can cost you thousands. But there's a better way to protect your home. Simply Safe Home Security. Simply Safe has no contracts, none. You'll get 24/7 protection, trained professionals watching over your home, ready to call the police for just $14.99 per month. That's less than one-third what most companies charge. Simply Safe protects your home, your family, and thousands of other listeners every day. Protect your home the smart way. Visit simplysafeventura.com. Go now for an exclusive 10% offer only at simplysafeventura.com.
This is We the People. What is wrong with our country? I don't want to believe what you believe, and you can't make me. I want to hear why it's bad to feel good. These two political gangs don't have your best interest in mind. Makes me proud to be an American. Makes me even smarter to be off the grid. Stay vigilant, people. Abraham, light up that joint. Welcome, vigilant listeners, to We the People podcast. Big day today as we have the one and only Donald Trump joining us later in the hour. That's right, Donald Trump is here. Looking forward to talking to the Donald. But first, as always, my vigilant producer, Alex Logan, has some stories he'd like to share with us. Alex, what do you got today?
Well, because this is one of the last shows of the year, we thought we'd throw in some fun surprises for your listeners and have a little fun. First up, we wanted to introduce a new segment in the podcast called Straight from the Body's Mouth. We've gathered some of your best quotes from all around the internet, and we thought it would be great for you to explain each one, whether you still stand for what you said back then, and in some instances, whether you actually said them. All right, you ready?
I guess so.
No law will make a citizen a patriot.
I said that?
It was you explaining your veto of a bill requiring public schools to recite the Pledge of Allegiance at least once a week.
I mean, that's just brainwashing. If you're patriotic, you don't need a law to make you patriotic. Patriotism comes from inside. Patriotism comes from your heart and who you are. And they can pass all the laws they want. It's not going to make you a patriot. So, yeah, you're going back a long time in time here, Alex. That's how come I didn't remember it. Jesus, you're going, how the hell did you get all the way back to my governorship? But when you remind me of it, that's how I'll explain it. No law will make a citizen a patriot. You can't pass a law for people to be patriotic. That's why making mandatory things, that's just brainwashing techniques that they use, to get you, to brainwash you into doing it. And so you can pass a law that can get you brainwashed. There's no doubt about that. But no law will make a citizen a patriot.
All right, how about this one? I would rather face the terrorists than lose my civil liberties.
Absolutely. And that's this fear we have in our country that they've perpetrated on us, that there's a crazy terrorist hiding behind every tree, so therefore we need to take your freedoms to make you safe. Well, what I'm saying there is I'd rather take my chance with the terrorists than I would to lose my freedom. In other words, give me freedom rather than a jail cell. I'll take my chances out there. Life is a gamble. Every day that you live life on this planet, it's a gamble. It's survival. You go from day to day. It's that simple. But I'd rather have the freedom to make my own choices and be out in the world than to have my civil liberties taken from me and be told that things that I can or can't do because of the fear of terrorism. Come on.
All right, here's this third one. I'd like to work on having every fourth year become a year in which no laws are made, but the old laws are reviewed, updated, or deleted as needed.
Yeah, that I did. That I attempted to do as governor, because what happened there was I walked in the Secretary of State's office when I first took office, and on the wall, there was this big, huge wall there, and covering the wall was nothing but books. I mean, it was like 6 Encyclopedia Britannicas or more covering the walls, right? And I turned to the receptionist there and I asked, as governor, I said, what are all these books? And she turned to me and said, oh, those are all the laws of the state of Minnesota. And I looked up at this and I said, and they tell us ignorance of the laws, no excuse? We're supposed to know as a citizen everything in these volumes of books? And it was at that point I realized, you know what? And then I learned as governor, every new law that you pass requires money to implement it. That's why the price of government continues to rise, because we continue to pass laws and laws which cost money and money. And so the quote was, I'd like to have every fourth year where the legislature comes back in and they don't pass any laws. They simply go through the books and read old laws, review them, update them, or get rid of them, so that we could take maybe this massive wall of books and condense it down into something that's more usable and reasonable. Give you an example. One of the laws that we repealed while I was governor of Minnesota, and I called a press conference on this. It was so dynamic. Again, ha, 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 get ready, because here it comes. It's a joke, 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 but it really happened. We had a law in Minnesota, and I never did find out who the governor was that signed it into law. We had a law, state law. The elderly could only play bingo 2 nights a week. State law. And the bingo had to be on file with the State Gaming Commission for upwards of 3.5 years.
Why?
For bingo.
For what reason?
I don't know. I wasn't around. I wasn't the governor. I'd like to know. And so when we repealed the law, I actually got them to repeal it. When we repealed the law, I called a press conference, and I had fun with it, because I told the press, now, today I'd like to announce a major thing. We've repealed law, House file, blah, 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 whatever it is. Repealing the law. I said, now, we're going to trust our elderly that they will play bingo with discretion, because now they will have the ability to play bingo every night if they want. They won't be restricted to 2 nights a week. And then I said, and I hope us opening the door that they can have bingo 7 days a week if they want it. I said, I hope that doesn't mean organized crime is going to come in and get a foothold in the world of bingo. And guess what? It's even beyond that. You know what else was in the law? It even said what the grand prize had to be.
And what was the grand prize?
The grand prize, if you won the big prize for bingo that night, and first of all, you got to remember, have you ever gone to bingo in the old folks' homes?
I have. I visited with my great uncle, yeah.
Well, half the people are sleeping.
Yeah.
You look out through the crowd. I mean, they're sitting in chairs, they're nodded out, something for them to do, but half of them are asleep. Well, anyway, the bingo, not only did they have to keep records for 3.5 years with the Gaming Commission, they could only play 2 nights a week. Well, we expanded. Now they could play it, but we needed them to understand we were giving them their freedom, but they needed their discretion. I forgot where I was going with it.
Oh, what was the grand prize?
Oh, the grand prize. In writing, wait till you hear this. The grand prize of the 2-night-a-week bingo, if you won one of the nights, you got head of the chow privilege line. First in line to get dinner. And we needed that as a state law. Can you imagine at some point, if they wouldn't have did it, you know what I would have did, now that I think back, if they wouldn't have repealed the law? I think I would have I would have ordered my highway patrol to do an undercover SWAT sting to find out if the winners were truly getting head-of-the-line privileges or were they being denied them. Well, you know what else I found out? And I know we're going off on a little tangent here, but what the hell? In Minnesota, you can't sell a car on Sunday, a car dealership. It's a state law. And I thought, what the hell is that? Isn't Sunday the best day to buy a car? The family's home, the wife, the kids, you can go out, you can go from dealer to dealer and test drive them and see which car you like the best and all this. And I thought, in the spirit of true capitalism, why is it against the law to sell a car on Sunday? Well, when I breached the subject, you know who gave me the most resistance on it? The car dealerships. They were using the government to have a guaranteed day off. Because if you owned a dealership and it was open, the dealer across the street might open up. That would mean you would have to open up to compete with him. And they would rather have state law deny them the ability to open up on Sunday so that none of them could work harder than the other. They would be required by law to take Sunday off. Now, is that capitalism? No, it's not. That is not. Because if you want to compete, which is what capitalism's about, why shouldn't you be allowed to sell? Doesn't the consumer come first? Alex, doesn't it seem logical to you? Wouldn't Sunday be the day a family would look for a car? I mean, if you're working Monday through Friday, and, Sunday after you get done with church, we eat dinner, what would be better Sunday afternoon on a beautiful day than if the family needs a new car, let's go out and test drive some cars?
It seems logical to me.
Well, but you can't in Minnesota. You got to wait till Monday and take the day off work. That seems logical.
All right, let's get to this fourth quote. This is a great one. If I could be reincarnated as a fabric, I would come back as a 38 double D bra.
Why not?
You remember saying that one?
Yeah, I said that in my Playboy interview. I was having fun. But then again, you can't have fun when you're a governor doing an interview. And I learned that precisely from giving a quote like that. See, it would have flown okay had it only been in Playboy. But mainstream media took it out and put it on the front page. That would be the equivalent of taking the photos in Playboy and putting them on the front page. And I had to learn that as governor. You have to be careful what you say and when you say it. Freedom of speech has its limitations with certain people. But, why wouldn't any heterosexual guy want to, if he had to come back as a fabric, come back as a 38 double D bra? I don't know about the gay people. Gay guys might not want that. I don't know. But as a hetero guy, what the hell?
All right, this is one of my favorite ones.
I was being funny. And then, unfortunately, like I said, when you're a governor, you're not allowed to be funny.
All right, this is one of my favorite ones. I asked him the most important question that I think you could ask, if he had ever seen Caddyshack.
Yep, that was when I had my meeting with the Dalai Lama. And they set it up. It was, my son and my wife got to go in the meeting, and they knew it was coming, and they left the room. My son got up and left the room because he couldn't face it. But I thought to myself, and the Dalai Lama's got a great sense of humor, you can tell, and he's an easygoing guy. He actually, I still have it. It hangs in my office on my desk. He gave me, I guess you call it a prayer scarf for Buddhism, blessed by the Dalai Lama himself, given personally to me. So I got that going for me,
Which is nice.
Which is nice, Big hitter, too. He's a big hitter. Anyway, though, so I as before I met the Dalai Lama, I thought to myself, what question can I ask him that he's not going to hear? I've already heard. I mean, what am I going to sit down and ask him the meaning of life? How many times do you think he's been asked that shit? And so I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to find out if he's ever watched Caddyshack. Because there's that great scene, as we all know, with Bill Murray talking about being a caddy, and he got the Dalai Lama, big hitter, who told him, Gunga, Gunga, Lagunga, which means when I die, I'll have total consciousness. So I got that going for me. And the fun part about this, after we got through with the whole interview with the Dalai Lama, and the reason he was in Minnesota, apparently we have quite a Tibetan population in Minnesota, and that's why he came here. But that aside, when he left, it was great. All the media was outside the governor's office, and we snuck him out the sneaky way so we wouldn't have to face him, because all governments have that, the sneaky way in and out, where you can avoid the press. I won't tell where it is because I honor the governors that come after me. But we got the Dalai Lama out the sneaky way. And then I went out to meet the press. And the press, as I said, our mainstream media is begging to be made fun of. And it started right that day with their opening question. The first question from the mainstream media is, well, what did the Dalai Lama say to you? Now, Alex, if you got a leading question like that, how would you answer it? I hope you'd do what I did. I looked at the press and I said, well, the Dalai Lama said to me, Gunga, Kunga, Lagunga, which means when I die, I'll have total consciousness. So I have that going for me. It was, the only guy that laughed was Eric Escala, the guy from NPR. You know, he got it. He burst out laughing. The rest of them were stone cold pissed off. You know, I think they knew that I pulled their leg because I think most of them probably had seen Caddyshack, and they didn't want to admit that they led themselves right into it with such a stupid-ass question. And then that's all I said to them. I turned and ended the press conference. So all they got out of me was that when I die, I'll have total consciousness, so I got that going for me.
Well, what do you remember most about meeting the Dalai Lama?
It was interesting. He wanted to know from me what it was like to dive under the water. Apparently, he's never scuba dove. And I told him he should do it because I said it's a whole nother world under there. It's very interesting to enter a world that you're not part of traditionally. And that's what's so, and really that's what he enjoyed talking to me actually about scuba diving and what it was like to scuba dive. And maybe I inspired him and, you know, but I don't know if he's allowed to scuba dive because, you know, he's got to wear all them robes and all that shit. And that could be trouble if you're going in the water. He'd have to actually put a swimsuit on or a wetsuit. And I don't know if the Dalai Lama's allowed to do that. I don't know all the rules. Although the Dalai Lama's Buddhist, right? Yeah. George Takei of Star Trek, he told me after hearing me on Howard Stern, he thinks I'm a Buddhist. He said, have you ever read about Buddhism? And I said, no. He said, you sound when you talk just like a Buddhist. I said, really? So one of these days I got to pick up a book on Buddhism, and you guys will know on Off the Grid if we come back and you see Buddha sitting here on the desk.
Well, the Dalai Lama is a religious figure. Did you have any reservations about that?
No, not at all. Hell, I'd love to meet the new Pope. I told you that. I love this new Pope. This guy's tremendous. He's the best Pope in my lifetime. I have nothing. You know, you guys, people need to understand. We atheists, we don't hate people because they're religious. It isn't like that. We give them their freedom. You're free to believe in what you want to believe. You're free to pursue whatever religious or spiritual beliefs that you choose to, you know, endeavor yourself with, or whatever the word would be. But also give us our freedom. We're free not to believe. You know, but I don't wish any bad things on religious people as long as they don't do harm or bring their religion or start wars because of their religion or try to impose their religious beliefs onto me and make me live by them. Then they'll get resistance from me. But I bear no one any religious, be whatever religion you want. I said that before. If you want to go out and worship a tree, that's your business. Just as long as you don't cut down the tree and it lands on me. Then you're infringing upon my rights. So, but I have nothing. I'd love to meet the new Pope. Shoot. In fact, we have a problem here, now that you're onto that, we have a problem here at the big Catholic Church here, was just on the news. They're going to have to cut 20% of everything because they have $5 million they got to pay in these child molestation cases, which is tragic, but they're having to pay it in damages. Well, and now they're having to cut. Where's the Vatican? Why don't they call the Pope and say, we need some help here. We've had to pay for these molestations. It's cost us $5 million. And rather than eliminate jobs, can you help us out? The Vatican's worth billions. They have $40 billion in art alone. Let them sell a painting. And they could pull out the Basilica Church here in the Minnesota. Isn't that what it's supposed to be? I mean, I'm not Catholic. I don't understand it all. But it seems to me when the Vatican has billions of dollars, they should be using that money out to some of their churches so it actually gets to the people. And here you got a church that's now in financial trouble, and they're going to have to cut 20% because of problems with priests molesting kids, and they got caught. Well, pay up. You got caught. Pay the piper.
All right, well, before we get to our Ask Jesse section, as a year-end send-off, we thought it'd be fun to turn the tables on you. We want you to play If I Were President. And maybe this will incite you to run. You ready?
Me? I thought we were going to do this. When I read it, I thought I was going to ask you, since you're leaving.
Well, we can both answer.
We'll do both. You go first. You can ask me first.
Okay, what's your first executive order?
My first executive order would be to give Guantanamo, arrange a meeting with Fidel Castro, and I'd inform him that we're giving Guantanamo Bay back to the country of Cuba.
Perfect. First person you'd hire?
The first person I'd hire, I would hire Chris Rock to be the janitor in the Oval Office. And not a downplay on Chris, but I'd do it for my selfish reasons. That means he'd have to come in every day to clean, and he'd make me laugh.
Well, couldn't we give him a job like a press secretary, a vice president, even secretary of state, or secretary of jokes even?
No,
no,
because no, not necessarily the janitor, but we could find a title for him. But I'd want him as my personal comedian to make me laugh. I don't want to share him. I wouldn't want to share him. I just want him, he would be there as my personal comedian, because I find Chris Rock so damn funny. And in a job like that, you need to laugh every day to keep your sanity. So Chris, we could call Chris, I know, he would be my psychologist.
Oh, okay. That's a good
There
one.
we go.
Yeah.
There, we'll change it. He would be the president's psychologist, Chris Rock.
Dr. Rock.
Dr. Rock. I call him Dr. Rock. And that
right.
way he'd come in and he'd make me laugh every day because I damn sure need it.
How about the first person you'd schedule a meeting with?
First person I schedule a meeting with would be Vladimir Putin.
And why is that?
Because I heard that he gave a speech that the rest of this country has not heard. In fact, I want you guys to get it for me. Putin made a speech that I heard was so dynamic and unbelievably good, and our mainstream media didn't even cover it. People of this country have not heard one word about what Vladimir Putin said. It kind of reminds me when John F. Kennedy spoke at the College of the Americas and gave that famous speech how we all breathe the same air and we all want the same for our children, which was never shown in the United States of America, but I believe was shown in its entirety to the Soviet Union 3 or 4 times. But because of the censorship practiced by the United States. So the first person I'd schedule a meeting with would be Vladimir Putin, so we could get rid of all the problems between the United States and the Soviets, and we could avoid any further escalation into any type of Cold War.
All right. Comedian you'd want for your first White House Correspondents' Dinner?
Well, I don't think that they could deliver on that, because we'd need to be Jesus here. He's got to be resurrected from the dead, George Carlin.
That's the best answer you can come up with for that.
We'd have to go to the senator in Oklahoma, Imhoff or whatever his name is.
Inhofe, yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to go to him or George Bush and have them talk to God and ask God if God could deliver George Carlin for one night for the Correspondents' Dinner, because George Carlin would be my first choice.
All right, and the president you want to model yourself after?
I've always said John F. Kennedy, and that's because he cheated on his wife. I would model myself after John F. Kennedy, because obviously he was our greatest president just about, because they wouldn't even let him serve one term before they killed him. Wouldn't even let him seek re-election. They had to that's how good he was. They couldn't allow him to seek re-election, so they had to kill him.
All right, it's my turn for these.
All right, Alex, what's your first executive order?
End the war on drugs, legalize it. Easy,
Okay.
Tax it, make money off of it.
Okay, first person you'd hire.
I think you know that. You, Jesse. Secretary of State, clean up all our foreign policy,
Secretary of State, as bombastic and straightforward as I am, you dare give me those diplomats and have me deal with them?
Somebody finally respect us for what we do.
That would be like I gave Bill Clinton the key to solving the Israeli-Palestinian thing, and he looked at me like, oh my God, this guy could have his finger on the button. I won't go into that for another day. But anyway, okay, first person you'd schedule a meeting with.
Oh, this is a selfish one, but Bob Dylan. He's been my favorite singer my entire life. I've always wanted to meet him, and I'm the president, so I get to talk to him, right?
Sure, and I'm happy because he's a Minnesotan.
Yep, exactly.
So the first person you want to meet would be a fellow Minnesotan. And my junior high school teacher went to school with him when he was Robert Zimmerman in Hibbing.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Anyway, the comedian you'd want for your first White House Correspondents' Dinner.
I forget who said this before, but Doug Stanhope. He's one of my favorites. I think he's a great political comedian. I think he's really good about just laying out all of our problems and showing us how to fix them.
Okay, and the president you'd model yourself after.
All right, you're not going to like this at first, but follow me with it. George W. Bush.
What?
And I do it because he did whatever the hell he wanted, and he was the buck stopped there. He changed the country for everything, but I wouldn't do what he did. I changed the country for good.
Holy cripe.
Nobody stopped him. He did whatever he wanted. He took over. He enacted every bad law, but I do it for good.
Wait, so in other words, what you're telling me, Alex, is you want to be benevolent dictator.
Yeah, exactly. I've worked with you long enough to learn that.
All right, we'll clear that up quick. You don't want to be president. You want to be benevolent dictator.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, okay. Anyway, all right, it's time to answer questions from you, my vigilant listeners. Alex, what do the good people want to know today?
All right, from William Forrest in Michigan. Why is that non-American still in office and all elections are fake? This is the best way to deal with a worthless government. Do unto them as they do unto us. Jesse, the key to peace is sitting on your shoulders.
I'm not sure why is that non-American still in...
I think what he's trying to say is that Obama is not an American. I think this is another birther.
Oh, Jesus. You know, when they do that, they lose all credibility with me. You know, when they start that. I'm more concerned that Obama's CIA than I am where he was born. You know, because the jobs he had got CIA written all over them. You know, the jobs he used to do when he first got out of college and all that. And so I'm far more worried about that than a non-American is still in office. Well, let's remember something, too. And I think people need to all remember this also. There were many people in this country who wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to run for president. Well, he wasn't born here either, so he can't do it. You know, we know for sure he can't do it. But I think people need, on a serious note, to remember something else. We are all immigrants. Unless you're a Native American, you're an immigrant. So always remember that before you start pointing fingers saying I'm an American and you're an immigrant. No, we're all immigrants unless you're a Native American who was here before our history started in 1492.
All right, this next one is from Aaron Nelson in New Jersey. I am actually someone who made a lot of mistakes when I was much younger. I was 22, had a lot of problems, and wound up with a felony record. I served my time, was released, and re-educated myself. I have become a model citizen. My main question for you is, even though I have made some mistakes in my life, have turned my entire life around, do you believe I should never be able to regain my Second Amendment privilege or be able to be granted a security clearance to work on classified military projects for the rest of my life?
And the reason he can't is because he's a convicted felon? Is that the reason?
Correct.
Well, then what he needs to do is pursue to get that expunged from his record, which could happen. He can do that. Here in Minnesota, I, the Attorney General, and the Chief Justice of our Supreme Court, we sat on the committee, and all three of us, the way we do it in Minnesota, have to vote yay or nay. If one of us says the wrong, it doesn't happen. But we expunged many people's records, especially drug people. People that got convicted of marijuana 20 years ago and still had it on their record. There were many records we cleaned off. So what you need to do is follow the proper procedures and see if there's a possible way you could get this removed from your record. And the best way to do it is by the example you've set. You're now a good citizen, and you've been that way for a long time and changed your life around. Believe it or not, there are people that have sympathy to that and will give a second chance, so don't give up hope.
All right, we're going to skip down to this next one. From Carrie Laval in Connecticut. What do you think about this Navy SEAL O'Neill talking about killing bin Laden? I don't trust our government at all, and my son just got qualified to train to be a Navy SEAL. I am proud of my son, but wish he would have done something different.
Well, first of all, your son needs your support. And if that's what he chooses to do, to go into that line of work in the military, it would be much better for you to support his choice. He's an adult now. He's a man. You can dislike it personally, but support him in the choices that he makes. Because if he makes it, he's going to be part of a very elite unit, and he will pay a price to get there, which will, in the end, hopefully make him a better person when it's all over with. But I don't trust my government at all either. You know, And it's healthy to not trust the government because, remember, governments are not gods. Government are people. And the people that run government can be just as bad. Put it this way, bad people can get control of government. If you don't believe that, go talk to the Germans back in the 30s. I think they can explain it to you. And so it's up to us as vigilant citizens to try to ensure that the government isn't bad and that bad people don't run it. You do that by voting. But when only 38% of us decide to vote, well, then it's a good chance you might get bad people in there. But I would just tell you, Carrie, that if your son qualified and wants to do it, then, give him your support, because he'll need it. And always remember, he's your son. It doesn't mean he's going to turn out any different. He'll always be your son.
All right, this last one is from Joe Couture down in Florida. Now, just as a disclaimer here, Gov, it's a lengthy one, but we felt it was necessary for you to hear. I live in Florida, which has become the butt of just about every joke in the country. In most places in Florida, it is illegal now to give a homeless man a piece of food. We have had our rights stripped, and everything that is best in us is being suppressed as a people. Recently, we have had our elections like everyone else. On our ballot was Prop 2 to make medical marijuana legal for those who need it medically. 3.3 million people voted yes, giving us a 57% approval to a 42% disapproval. Despite the great turnout and overwhelming support of this prop, it did not pass. We tried to do it their way. We tried voting and making our voices heard on paper, and it didn't work. I have now started a Facebook group that is growing by the second to address a group of glaring problems in this state, calling for a peaceful march in Tallahassee on April 20th, 2015, much in the same way Martin Luther King Jr. led marches in Alabama and Mississippi. My goal is to reach out to as many supporters of liberty as possible. I know your stances. I know you support the ending of the war on drugs, even without doing them yourself. I know that you see 20,000 Mexicans die each year as a result of our current drug policies. I want to fight back. I humbly ask for your support. I ask you to call for people to support us. I ask for you to ask for your fans in Florida to join our cause. We cannot do it alone. I want to change our idea of war. Stop making war out to be a fight against someone and start making it a fight for someone. War on poverty, war on corruption. I want to start a movement that has a face. I have a 3-year-old daughter. I fear for her future. I will happily give my life to ensure a better world for her. I want to see MLK's dream come true. I have no idea if this will reach you, but I have faith. Your humble servant, Joe Couture.
Well, Joe, you're doing the right thing, and we're happy to play the whole thing right on here. And I'll urge anybody that follows my show and believes what we believe in, that's why you watch this show, join Joe, help him out. If you're down there in Florida, this is an opportunity for you, the people, to express yourself. It's our country. It's not theirs. It's ours. And we have the right to do all these things. And what Joe's doing is what more people need to do in this country, is take it back and take it back the right way. My hat tips to you, Joe. I admire you for what you're doing. Keep up the good work, and you'll receive all the support I can give you from my shows Off the Grid as well as We the People podcast. You're doing the right thing, and you're doing it the right way. But the problem you need to do now, you tried to petition and it didn't work. Well, now you got to vote the people out of office. You got to get rid of those Democrats and those Republicans that don't support what you're trying to do here and elect the people that do. And then they can change it in the State House for you, and you won't have to try to do it with petitions or re-petition it, keep it up, and get the 60%. You only missed by 3. That ain't much. You can get 3%. Visit it again in the very next election.
All right, that's all the Ask Jesse I have for this podcast.
Very good. Now for the interview of the hour.
Vigilant listeners, I have a quick message from our sponsors for you. You can't really go anywhere today, whether it's online or in the physical world, without being tracked by someone. We tend to forget that privacy is a right of the people, and we can't let our government or big money corporations take that right away from us. Everyone deserves privacy, not only security experts or government officials. CYPH Scythe is the next generation messenger application that delivers cryptography to the masses, making privacy the new status quo. It was founded by 2 former SpaceX engineers and childhood friends. These are real-life vigilantes who wanted to create an application that met their own high standards of what online chat should be. With Cyph, C-Y-P-H, never again will you need to ask someone else to install or configure or sign up for anything when all you need is an on-off private discussion, just one click and you're secure. It's free to use, there are no ads, it works on desktops, tablets, and phones. And to crack a single Cyph message key, even using the fastest supercomputer in the world, it would still take longer than the age of the universe. You can start Cyphing now at cyph.com, Cyph.com, and for my vigilant listeners out there, if you go to Cyph.com/Ventura, you'll be bumped to the top of the invite list for early access of the next version of Cyph again. That's Cyph, cyph.com/Ventura. Cyph, privacy starts here. Now back to our show.
He's a businessman, real estate developer, and he's known to blame a thing or two on President Obama. He's back hosting NBC's Celebrity Apprentice Sunday, January 4th on NBC, and I welcome the one, the only, and I consider him a friend, Donald Trump, to the podcast We the People. Donald, how are you?
Great to be with you, Jesse. It's been a long time since we had dinner in New York.
Yes, and since we played golf out in Lake Tahoe. I remember we were out there together also. And in fact, I quit flying, so how are we going to ever play golf together again?
Well, we better. Oh, you quit flying. You're not a believer, huh? You're not a believer in being 40,000 feet up in the air. That's terrible.
No, it isn't that. I have metal in my body, and I got tired of being treated like a criminal every time I went to an airport, and so they gave the option. They said, if you don't like it, don't fly. So I said, well, I don't like. I actually tried to bring a federal lawsuit for my Fourth Amendment rights, and it got thrown out of court. The judge said she didn't have jurisdiction. Imagine that, Donald. A federal judge who doesn't have jurisdiction over a federal question.
That's very interesting. You're right about that, Jesse.
Anyway, I had to ask my people, so Celebrity Apprentice, you're back. How long have you been doing that now?
So this is 10 years. It's the 14th episode. It's been copied. You know, we've had it on now a series of 14, and it's been copied 15 times by lots of different people, and they all tried to make it successful, and it's been a huge failure for every one of them, which, of course, makes me very happy, actually. But they've all failed miserably, and here we are, season 14, and it's going to be really terrific.
Donald, when you started doing it, did you have any idea that it would be 14 years of your life doing it?
Well, I actually was told it could never make it because, to make it on television, you really, and I've learned so much about ratings over the years, you have to have women watch. And a lot of the critics were saying, well, this can't make it because what woman would want to watch Donald Trump? And it was sort of like, I said, what, have I been so bad with women? I don't think so. And what happened is, it went on, Jesse. It opened at 10. It then went to 9, and then it went to 6. And then it went to number 1. Eventually it went down to number 1. It became the number 1 show on television. And I sort of wrote that critic a letter. I said, I guess the women are watching.
Well, and the other thing, too, Donald, you're a smart guy. No one's ever going to accuse you of not being intelligent. And I think you learned well from our dealings in the old days of pro wrestling at Trump there in Atlantic City, because we had the fastest sellouts ever, right?
We did. And, not so long ago, 5 years ago, I did the Battle of the Billionaires with your friend Vince. And that's the highest rated wrestling show ever. We did that one in Detroit. But, Jesse, that's the highest rated wrestling show ever. So we're very happy with that one. And I don't know how you feel about Vince. I mean, he's a friend of mine, but I'm not sure.
No, I'm fine with Vince. I mean, Vince and I had our disagreements, and I beat him in federal court, which irritated him. But other than that, we've gotten along great. In fact, we get along better today than we did when I worked for him.
That's great, Jesse. That's good. Well, he's always been really fair to me.
Well, the thing is, though, is what I love is, Donald, how you learn quick, like the world of pro wrestling. It doesn't matter.
Well, you have to learn quick, Jesse. If you don't learn quickly, you're in trouble in this world. This is a real vicious cycle, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, and you learn fast that any publicity is good as long as they spell your name right, right?
Well, there's a little truth to that. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm a total believer, but there is a little bit of truth to that. There's no question about it.
That's the way we used to operate in wrestling. But let's get on to politics a little bit. You know, you love to venture in there. Now, over the past 24 hours, you've criticized Obama for his climate deal with China, his Mexican deportation numbers, his relationship with Obamacare advisor. You're the master at getting the press to get anything to say about him. Do you really think Obama's worse than George Bush?
Well, I thought, I'm a Republican, but I thought George Bush was terrible. And I have this whole thing with Twitter where between Facebook and Twitter, I have almost 6 million people. So it's really like owning the New York Times without the losses. I love that. And I have a tremendous, it's a tremendous voice. And I talk about things. And look, Obama's a disaster, but, without Bush, you wouldn't have Obama. Obama was given to us by Bush because Bush did a lot of bad things. First of all, he destabilized the entire Middle East. I mean, that whole thing was a disaster. And as you remember, I said, look, if you're going to do it, at least keep the oil, get something out of it. And now ISIS, as you know, Jesse, has the oil. So it was a real disaster. And honestly, both of them are disasters as far as I'm concerned.
What do we do then, Donald? It's, 2016's coming up. Do I need to run?
Well, you'd be one hell of an entertaining character. I've liked, a lot of people, they smile, but you have a lot of the things you say, Jesse, are common sense. They're just pure common sense, and they make sense to a lot of people, and don't underestimate it. And, I see that.
Well, I've gone public. I've told people, I said, if I got Donald Trump with me, Vince McMahon, and my friend Mark Cuban, those three guys could finance me to the point where I could make a hell of a run, and then you'd know who'd own me. It'd just be three people. How do you feel about my position on this, Donald? I think all presidential candidates should be required to wear NASCAR racing suits so that we as voters can be informed and know who owns them.
That's very interesting. Yesterday I gave a keynote because I own Doral in Miami, 800 acres in the middle of Miami. I gave a keynote speech for the NASCAR people. Brian France was there. The racers were all there. And it was at Doral, in the ballroom of Doral. And those guys have done a fantastic job. You talk about branding, but they have really done. It was an exciting evening. But that was just last night. But that's an interesting idea. That's one I have not heard of, Jess.
Well, I did that kind of tongue-in-cheek thinking, well, geez, that would you'd be an informed voter then, because like in front of Barack Obama, you could have Goldman Sachs because they were his biggest contributor.
Jesse, you wouldn't have enough room in the uniform.
Yeah, but you just get the major ones, like Jimmy Johnson. His main contributor's Lowe's. You see the big Lowe's thing on Jimmy Johnson. So at least then you'd know. I know we're limited on time, Donald, so we'll move along here quickly.
Okay.
You recently said Mexico is the new China. What do you mean by that?
Well, within 2 years, Mexico is going to be, I hate to use the word partner, they'll be our largest trading partner, and they're doing numbers that are incredible, making a tremendous amount of money off the United States. And, when we had a soldier over there, we couldn't get the soldier out. They wouldn't even take our phone calls. And I actually don't think Obama even made a call, if you want to know the truth. I think he did not make a call. But Mexico is making a tremendous amount of money off the United States, Jesse, and we just allow that to happen. And look, we have no leader. We have no leadership. And what's going on is ridiculous. You know that. Probably you're somebody that knows it even better than I do. We have absolutely no leadership.
Well, it's sad. And again, let's get back. 2016, Donald, where do we go? Who would you support for president in 2016?
Well, it's a little early. It's going to start happening over the next period of time. We'll see what happens. And a lot of people are saying, are you going to run? Meaning, am I going to run? We're going to see what happens. We're going to look. And certainly, in a certain way, it's the most important election we've ever had because we are so far down. When you look at what's happening with China and all these other nations, the way they take advantage of this country, we are really in trouble. We're up to 18 trillion in debt now, Jesse, 18 trillion, a number that nobody thought, and it's going to 22. 22 trillion is a very big turning point, but it's going to 22 trillion. Obamacare has turned out to be a disaster, and it's really going to kill the economy. When Obamacare really kicks in, which is going to be in 16, the economy is going to be a travesty.
Let me ask you this, though, Donald, throwing Obamacare out of the mix, because I've made this statement. I've said that in a country as rich as the United States, or at least what we used to be, that every person in this country should have the right, if they're sick, to be able to go see a doctor. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think it's great. I think the concept is great. Obamacare is not the answer because, it's got so many flaws in it and it's very expensive. You can have a plan, Jesse, that's less expensive but much, much better. So there are many, many concepts and many, many plans that would be much less expensive, both for people and for the country, and substantially better. So, hey, I'm all for that.
Don't you think, though, it's because of the sellout with the influx of the dirty money into the campaigns that they have to satisfy the people that pay the bills to get them there? Shouldn't that be the cleanup first?
Well, I can tell you this, Jesse, the insurance companies aren't complaining because their stocks are at an all-time high. So the insurance companies are big beneficiaries with Obamacare. And their stock right now is literally, their stocks are at all-time highs. So they're not complaining, and they put in plenty of cash into Obama's campaign.
Oh, yeah. See, that's what, to me, it all comes down to, Donald. I proudly can tell people, when I ran for governor of Minnesota, I only raised $300,000. I actually made more money doing the job than what I spent to get it. I
watched that race. If you remember, I was a small contributor to your race, but I watched that race, and I thought it was one of the coolest races ever. So that's good, Jess. Proud of you.
Anyway, thank you, Donald. We got to move on because I know your time is valuable, but we always do a segment, and this is great for you. It's called If I Were President. Give me your rapid-fire responses to these questions, and don't take this too seriously, otherwise it's not fun. Okay? Here we go. 5 questions. Donald Trump's the new president 2016. What's your first executive order?
I'd knock out Obamacare.
First thing.
Or I'd override the executive order that's about to take place where they open up the borders. It's incredible. So I might do that. But I would knock out Obamacare. Obamacare is truly bad news.
I'd be different from you. My first executive order, I'd close Guantanamo and give it back to Cuba.
That's interesting. Okay. That's all right. That's interesting. It's a little bit different. Of course, Obama's been saying he's going to do that for a long period of time, right? Somehow that hasn't worked out.
They can't, though. That's the torture chamber.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Anyway, question number 2. Who's the first person you'd schedule a meeting with?
Well, I think I'd meet with numerous people, the top people on Wall Street, all of whom I know. And I'd pick the top of the list to get things going back with understanding that they're going to report to me. But I would meet the top people on Wall Street and come up with incentives to get this economy really going again, rising again.
Number 3, which comedian would you pick for your first White House Correspondents' Dinner?
Well, maybe Darrell Hammond, who imitates me incredibly well, or Frank Caliendo, who also imitates me well. Those two guys, they make a living off imitating me, and I find them actually very funny, and both good guys. Well,
and it's the height of flattery to have someone do that to you.
Well, it is. It really is. But they do a lot. Darrell Hammond, from Saturday Night Live, and Frank Caliendo, two good guys, and they spend a lot of time, like you get a lot of imitations, Jesse, so do I.
Question 4, Donald. What government agency would you abolish?
Well, you got a lot of them, but I'd certainly want to keep education on a more local level. Education, if you look where they're giving all sorts of orders down from Washington, I would say that education should be very much more localized than it is right now, Jesse.
You and I are on the complete same page there, Donald. That would be my choice, too. I would abolish the Federal Department of Education. Reason being, having been a governor, it can be totally handled at the state level, and the farther you send your money, the less you get back on it.
And handled much better and much really nicer for the kids. I think it's ridiculous. They send down orders from Washington. These people don't know what they're talking about. So I think if you were talking about something like that question, it's an interesting question, but what comes to mind would be education.
Okay, finally, the 5th one. What president would you model yourself after?
Well, I always liked Ronald Reagan. I knew him. I supported him, and I always liked him as a president, and he had mojo. He was something special, and we certainly don't have that right now.
You know what I like most about Ronald Reagan? Was he cut and ran.
Explain that.
I respected him because today he'd be accused of cutting and running. When we had the brave Marines in Lebanon and they were hit by that truck bomb and over 200 of them killed, did he go to war? Did he seek revenge? No. He got the hell out of there.
Well, we are a mess. That war that we're going through right now is a mess. And we have people that don't even understand it. We have a president that has no concept of what's going on. And honestly, as a nation, Jesse, we're in such trouble, it's incredible.
Yeah, and the guy that took us there didn't know what was going on, or he wouldn't have taken us there.
He didn't. I told you before, I'm a Republican, but Bush was a disaster. And the last thing we need is another Bush going in office.
If you had to pick between the two parties, Donald, throw yourself out, throw me out, throw everybody out, who do you think is going to come through the wash from the two parties in 2016? Who do you think it's going to be?
Well, I think you probably have Hillary, certainly. But, of course, we said that 4 years ago it was going to be Hillary, in a walk, and now you have it again. But probably it's Hillary. And on the other side, I don't know, Jesse. You have so many possible candidates, many of whom haven't even announced, and you certainly have a lot. Rand Paul is making headway. I guess you have Cruz and you have Christie, and, you have a lot of different people talking about running. But so far, nobody's announced. We'll see what happens. But Hillary as a Democrat, I would say Hillary certainly seems to be like it's a lot. But, in the world of life and politics, Jesse, you never know.
Donald, would you run as an independent or would you join one of the two gangs?
No, I wouldn't run as an independent. I'd run as a Republican. I'm a Republican. I'd run as a Republican maybe, but I wouldn't run as an independent. The system doesn't set up as an independent. If I've studied the system very much, and there are some states, Jesse, there are some states you can't even get on the ballot as an independent. You'd have to spend a total fortune just to get on the ballot. And after you spent all that money, you probably wouldn't get on it. So it doesn't really, as a system, it doesn't set up as an independent.
But let me fire this at you for a moment, Donald, and we'll end with this, something for you to think about. If I ran, that would be the essence of my entire candidacy. I would challenge the American people to elect the first president since George Washington who does not belong to a party. And after watching 63% of the people not even turn out for the midterm elections, I think I could inspire them to come out and make history, challenge them to make history with me. I believe I could win on that issue alone.
But, Jesse, I will tell you this, from a legal standpoint, because I've had lawyers study this very carefully, it is very hard in many states to even get on, which is unfair, frankly, but it's very hard to even get on the ballot in many states. Even if you have the money and the kind of money that's, unlimited, it's very, very hard to get on many states. And as an independent, unless you're on every state, it's going to be very, very hard to win because people are used to the two-party system. And I think if you were going to do it, you should go probably one of the two parties because there you're getting on automatically. Hey, there's something for you to figure out. It is very, very hard to get on the ballots.
I'm a step ahead of you already, Donald. The Libertarian Party is almost on every ballot there is. The only thing you need is ballot access and be allowed in the debates.
Okay. Well, that's a good answer.
And I would tell the Libertarians, look, I'm accepting your mantle, but be aware no one's going to control me because that's how I win. The fact that I'm uncontrolled and you'll elect a president who is not part of the two-party gang system, as I call it.
Well, so you're really thinking about it then, Jesse, huh?
Oh, I'm thinking about it.
Wow. You will shake things up. You will definitely shake them up. Well, you've been a friend of mine for a long time, and, it's an honor to do this with you. And it's fun. This is not your typical interview, right?
No, it ain't. It isn't at all. But you know what, Donald? It would be fun, and I think this country needs to be shaken up.
Well, you're right about that. That I can tell you. So this country's in big trouble. Hey, Jesse, thank you very much. A great honor, man. I'll see you soon, I hope.
Thank you, Donald. Absolutely. Let's get together and play golf, man.
100%. 100%.
This is Corolla Digital.